So yeah, you wanna buy SpaceX at the IPO. That's kinda cool. But if I asked you, when did the insiders get to dump their shares? Or when did the early investors get to sell? Or even exactly how many shares get unlocked on each day? I'm sure you know all this by heart. Unless it's free money you can afford to lose. In that case, fair enough. Who am I to even ask? But if you're actually putting serious money into this thing, wouldn't you want to know when billions of dollars worth of shares could potentially hit the market? Because if you're buying SpaceX and you don't know these dates, you might as well be like a blind bat because, well, everybody is busy talking about buying shares. Almost nobody is talking about when insiders are finally allowed to sell them. And when I started looking into this, I thought there would be one lockup date and that would be the end of it. Man, was I wrong. SpaceX has built a staggered unlock schedule stretching across months. You gotta give it to Elon though. Day 70, day 90, day 105, day 120, day 135. And every one of those dates changes how many shares can potentially hit the market. So stay with me. Let's have a look at all of those dates. I spent 6 dates digging through filings, articles, and timelines to put this entire schedule together so you don't have to. Day 1. Yup, day 1. But before we talk about selling, we need to start right here, the IPO day. You buy your new shiny SpaceX shares. The stock finally starts trading. Everyone is excited. Financial media is losing its mind. Twitter's losing its mind. Reddit's losing its minds too. To the moon, YOLO! And meanwhile, the people sitting on millions of shares, they can't sell. Nothing. Zero. Locked. So, who's actually affected by all of this? Which is kind of funny when you actually think about it. The people who know the company best are literally watching from the sideline. And yes, that includes the man himself. So not Elon, not executives, not early investors. Nobody. Everything is locked up. Big Brother has the eyes locked and loaded on this. Now, here's the most important part. Nothing stays locked forever. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. Can you imagine what would happen if everyone could sell on day 1? That would be chaos. Alright, there goes. The first unlock happens. Here's where things start moving. Now this is where things get really interesting. The first unlock happens after the company reports its first earnings as a public company. 20%, guys. That's not a small number. That's a meaningful amount of stock suddenly becoming available. And this unlock isn't tied to a calendar date. It's tied to earnings. So who gets access first? The same people who've been waiting since IPO day. But don't get too excited. Most shares are still locked away. Now, before people start screaming, "Don't be coming," remember something. Just because somebody can sell doesn't mean they will sell. If somebody handed me free SpaceX shares years ago, would I sell? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on the valuation. Depends on the future. Depends on what I think Starlink becomes. Depends on what I think AI becomes. Depends on what the Mars mission becomes. Depends on where I think the launch revenue goes. That's the thing people forget. Unlocking shares and selling shares are not the same thing. But here's the catch. The market knows when those shares can now be sold. And that changes behavior entirely. And now we arrive at the first scheduled unlock. Now we hit day 70. Another 7% unlocks. Same players, same game. But now the numbers start getting interesting. And this is where I started actually thinking. These lucky insiders, these early investors, they're absolutely minting it right now. Imagine investing in SpaceX years ago, before everybody wanted a piece, before the IPO, before the massive headlines. And now you're sitting on gains most people can only dream about, and we're only getting started. Now, would you sell? Honestly, some people probably will. But human nature is human nature. If somebody showed up and said, "Congratulations, here's life-changing money," a lot of people would take it. Day 90, another 7%. Same people, same opportunity. And now we're talking about a meaningful chunk of shares compared to IPO day. At this point, the pattern becomes obvious. This isn't just one giant unlock, it's a drip feed, a controlled release, almost like SpaceX opening the pressure valve. But we're not done. The next stop is day 105, which makes sense. Imagine everything hitting the market all at once. That would be a completely different situation. So, day 90 comes, more shares become available, and the timeline keeps moving. And now, we arrive at day 105, another 7%. Same sellers, different day. The unlock total keeps climbing. But now, here's where it gets weird. Most investors focus on the IPO. Almost nobody focuses on what happens afterwards. Everybody talks about buying. Nobody talks about who can sell. And yet, both sides matter. And the unlock train keeps moving. If you're valuing a company at trillions of dollars, understanding the ownership structure matters. Understanding the unlock schedule matters. Understanding incentive matters. Most people miss this part entirely. Now we're at day 120, another 7%. And once again, the same groups can access more shares. And the number keeps building. And honestly, by this point, I see why you're starting to see why I spent 6 days researching this. Because this thing isn't simple. There isn't one unlock date. There isn't even one day. There isn't one event. And we're still not finished. It's layer after layer after layer. And every new layer changes the amount of stock potentially available to the market. Now we're getting close. Really close. Day 135. Another 7%. The same people, the same opportunity. Most of the restrictions are now behind us. The gate is basically wide open at this point. Most of the journey is behind us. Most of the restrictions are gone. And all that's left is the final stretch. Which brings us to the reason many people click this video. This is it. The final unlock. The shackles come off. The restrictions are gone. Elon could sell. Now, before people can take that the wrong way, that doesn't mean he will sell. Those are two different things. Just because somebody can sell doesn't mean they want to sell. But the lockup restrictions, they're finished. Done. Over. The king is crowned. Not because he sold, not because he dumped shares, but because for the first time since the IPO, there are no lockup restrictions left holding him back. And that's really what this entire video has been about. Not whether somebody sells, not whether SpaceX goes up, not whether SpaceX goes down. Just understanding the timeline and understanding who gets access to what and when. Because if you're investing serious money to something, those are probably things worth knowing. Whether insiders decide to sell is a completely different question. But now, at least you know exactly when they can.